Hey guys, Peter here to do an album review. Today I'm here to tell you all about the latest from Cataclysm, Unconquered, out September 25th on Nuclear Blast. This album has 9 tracks, 38 minutes in length, and this is the band's 14th full-length studio album. Cataclysm has always been known for a band that has a lot of aggression and intensity in its music. This album is no different. Actually, this album is slightly different because I really felt that this was a record that they turned it all the way to 11. Perhaps a result of the world that we live in. It's impossible to be surrounded by hate, pain, suffering, illness, death, and not have those elements condition your creative process and how you put an album together. An album that has to be divided into 3 main key components in order for you to really grasp the full essence of the record, and that is structure, sound, and vocals. With the sound, I really feel like I have to break it down into 2 further elements, but overall these are the 3 main courses, if you will, surrounding this record. As far as the structure goes, this is a very linear record, very cohesive. There's no ups and downs, it's not a roller coaster ride. It stays true to its sound from the first song all the way to the last song, and that allows the album to be very robust, to be really compounded with heaviness and brutality and aggression and intensity, and just change ever so slightly from song to song so it doesn't become repetitive. It's not an album that's repetitive at all. It has the same elements present on every single song, but the way they're structured in a different way, so it allows the album to have a nice flow from track to track but never lose that consistency across all tracks. There's only one thing I would do as far as the overall structure in order to make things slightly better for the listener, specifically for the listener that's enjoying the record and it's listening to the album from start to finish, and that is move Icarus Falling from number 8 on the track listing a little bit more into the middle of the album. Not because this is a track that's a softer track or a more melodic track, but it's definitely a track that has a longer intro and a more melodic intro. So putting this track in the middle of the record would give you the perfect start of side B of the album, and it would give the listener a little bit of a chance to go up for air, catch his breath, before you get into the onslaught that comes right after. The way it's put together right now, you get this track at number 8, almost at the end of the album. So by then, you're so exhausted with all the aggression, all the intensity that you got all the way until then, that by the time you catch your breath, it's a little bit too late into the album, and it really doesn't do much for the listener. So I feel like moving this track a few spots upper on the tracking list would really create an overall better flow for the album. As far as sound is concerned, like I said before, I really have to break it down into 2 separate elements: guitars and drums. I love the guitars on this record. They have a very powerful, thick sound, very robust, and this adds to the overall melody and to the overall aggression and intensity that the record has. A lot of that aggression and intensity is really coming from the guitars and how big they sound. They sound so large, larger than life. It's like there's 3 or 4 guitar players playing at the same time. That's the type of sound you're going to get from the guitars on this album. The other element is the drums. You cannot talk about Unconquered from Cataclysm without mentioning the drums. Absolutely phenomenal, demolishing. They just wreak havoc all over this record. They're definitely one of the key components as far as the heaviness and brutality of this album is concerned. Perhaps the main component as far as heaviness and brutality is concerned. I love the drums on this record. I just love the intensity that they have. I love their sound, how powerful they are, how good they were recorded on this album. They have such a great sound. They're just crisp, powerful. They add substance to the way the guitars were put together, so the 2 really pair up perfectly across every single track. And then when you add the last driving piece, the last element, the vocals, you have the perfect trifecta here in order to create this really robust, this really heavy sound across every single song. The vocals are the vocals. I mean, we're talking about Maurizio here. He has a very specific approach. He has a very specific style. I still feel like it has to be mentioned when you're looking at this album review, because he has that ability to really enhance the atmosphere that the lyrics have, and then enhance overall the feel that the songs have on a musical sense, and really capture both elements and mix them into the way he delivers the lyrics. So his vocals on this record are vintage Cataclysm. I really love the little nuances that he did. I felt that he went a little bit perhaps outside of his normal comfort zone with a few tracks, especially with Defiant. And it added something. It added that intensity. It added that extra aggression that I said at the beginning when I said it was turned all the way to 11. This is what I meant, is by, on the vocal side, going a little bit out of your comfort zone and including a few different elements that really move the needle one step further. In the same way, you can talk about the drums and guitars and how cohesive they are with each other. Once again, moving that needle one step further. So overall, this is a very organic record, very heavy, filled with aggression, filled with intensity, an album that really doesn't give you a chance to rest or a chance to go make a coffee, because it's just brutal and relentless track after track after track, with a few nuances built in within the tracks themselves that allow you to perhaps take a little bit of a breath, but not too much, because the onslaught comes right after. It's a very dynamic, very fluid record from track to track, and overall a really well constructed album. As far as songs are concerned, I want to start off by Cut Me Down. I really love this song. It's a driven track from the get-go. The guitars have a more somber melody hidden underneath all the heaviness that the song carries. Moving overall more to a melodic sound when it gets to the chorus. There's not a substantial break between the verses and the chorus, but definitely the guitars sound a little bit more melodic in the chorus. The backing vocals that surrounds the chorus really gives a little bit of extra power. It gives a little bit of thickness to the sound. It gives a little bit more reach. It makes the chorus feel bigger, larger, almost like it's expanding when it's coming through, and I like that. It really impacts the track like this, a very relentless, a very heavy track, extremely well. The solo gives this song a little bit of a melancholic touch, which is interesting because overall this is a very aggressive track. I was not expecting the solo to change ever so slightly the mood of the song, but the solo kind of picks up a little bit of the fragrance that melodic that melodic guitar sound that's hidden underneath the heaviness and permeating throughout the track. So you get a little bit of that, but the solo still surprised me by being a lot more dark and melancholic when you compare it to the overall feel that this song has, which is one that's very straightforward and very aggressive. But overall, a very well constructed track, a track that just has a lot of great dynamic mechanisms built into it. Next, The Way Back Home. This one starts off with a more mellow opening. The guitar sound built with heaviness and melody. It really has those two elements working together, not one coming in and one going out, but the two of them working in parallel throughout the track, and that allows the song to gain some intensity, to gain some momentum, and still feel very melodic. It still sound very melodic. A very consistent track across verses and chorus. There's a very slight variation between the two. It's a song that stays very consistent across all different parameters of the track, never really deviating too much. There's a great guitar riff bridge that makes the song very heavy. It really adds a ton of bricks into the way this song is constructed, and it breaks a little bit that continuity that the track had all the way up until that point. So it changes a little bit of the eyesight of the listener. It really gives you a jolt of energy, if you will. But then it comes back to the same path, and it pretty much finishes off as it started. Not exactly as the track started, but with some of the same elements and definitely the same guitar melody as it started. So it's a song that goes full circle with that one ton of weight and ton of heaviness that breaks the song nearly in the middle part of the track. Last but not least, Defiant. Demolishing song. This, in my opinion, is the heaviest track on the album, both musically and vocally. It's just a death metal track from start to finish. It has a lot of power, it has a lot of strength, really cohesive when you're looking at drums, guitars, and how heavy those two elements are, and then how they combine themselves with the way the vocals come, and just really becomes this snowball effect that it just seems to get heavier and bigger as the track progresses. It drops a little bit of intensity in the chorus, not a lot, but the chorus is not really long. It's not a really hooky or catchy chorus, so the intensity picks up back right again. So it's a song that, while changing ever so slightly as it transfers itself from the verses to the chorus, it doesn't lose that much. So you still feel like you're going down this roller coaster ride of a track, but you're only going down, and you never see where the end is. It's just you're going down, and it's getting faster and faster because the song is getting heavier and heavier as it progresses. One of the tracks, in my opinion, that Maurizio really expended a little bit more on his vocal reach and did a few things that I hadn't seen him do up until this point or after this point on the record. So it's definitely one of the most dynamic tracks from a vocal perspective, and like I said, the heaviest track in my opinion as far as the musical side, but also as far as the vocal side. This is it. This is Cataclysm with Unconquered. Once again, out September 25th on Nuclear Blast. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.